Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to unbox one of the expansion packs to Super Fantasy Brawl that has been delivered to us as part of the Wave 2 Kickstarter release. As with our previous unboxing videos, this is an opportunity for us to not only look at the contents of this particular set, but also to discuss how Mythic Games approaches these expansions in general and what they add to your gameplay experience. This is the Mental Might expansion. The front of the box is covered with Super Fantasy Brawl's usual artwork, but if I flip it over you can see images of the actual models it contains on the back, along with age recommendations, etc. These are quite compact boxes and don't take up a huge amount of space, but they're sturdy enough to use as storage for your models once opened. If we get rid of the wrapping and open up the box, the first thing we see is this sheet confirming the contents of the box in multiple languages. Beneath this is a fairly sturdy vacuum-formed container for the miniatures and cards, with each miniature snug in its own space. There are two packs of cards included, one being the English version and the other French. Mythic Games have their headquarters in France, so many of their products are provided bilingually in this way, although it's always wise to check this if you're buying online. It's my understanding from the Kickstarter campaign that language variants in Spanish, Italian and German are available, and I'd presume the contents to be very similar, but obviously cannot confirm this. Like all the other champions from the core set, each of the 3 champions contributes 6 cards to the 18 card deck you would use in a standard game. As there are 3 champions included, you could theoretically just use one of these expansions and have a playable team, provided your opponent has a core set and all the other components. At least one of you will need a core set, but not necessarily both. However, you don't have to use these 3 champions together, you could just add 1 or 2 of them to the other champions you own to form a different combination of 3. There are no factions in the game, and so any champion can play alongside any other 2. The diversity of champions in the game and the ability to come up with teams that work differently together is a big selling point for me. If we look at just 3 of the cards from each champion, you'll see how each functions differently to the others. You can get a sense of their unique playstyle from the cards they provide even before you play a game. Starting with Jin Shen, we can see that most of her cards include the ability to displace her opponents from where they are currently positioned, such as force, push and pull. This makes her extremely effective at disrupting an opponent's attempts to secure challenges, but with only 4 points of health and 1 armor, she will need to be used carefully to avoid her being taken out. If you manage to get her leveled up, she will add stun to any displacement effect, which can make it more difficult for your opponent to use their champions by forcing them to discard cards. Isabella's cards try to create the sense of a character that has foresight of the brawl ahead by allowing her to disrupt rules or manipulate the flow of the battle. For example, she has a reasonably powerful attack that denies the opponent a reaction, whilst other cards allow her to plan future turns or move around the stadium at will. If you manage to level her up, you gain a free planned card every turn, reducing the randomness of your card draw each turn, and helping you avoid wasting cards that come up at the wrong time. Alchemy's cards include the unusual ability to generate a second blue core by removing a wound from an enemy model. At first reading, this felt overpowered as the limit of 3 cores is the principal part of the game. However, it is worth pointing out that you have to sacrifice your yellow core to play this card in the first place, so in effect you still only have 3 cores worth of actions. What this card gives you is adaptation. Breaking through high defense teams can be an interesting challenge in Super Fantasy Brawl, so I can see much application for Acid Rain, which turns high armor into a total liability and creates real vulnerability for characters like Lorelei, who have few wounds compensated for by high armor. Level Alchemy up and you do gain an extra action per turn. Although this must be one of the standard actions, this is bound to be useful as the game goes on. There are obviously 3 more cards provided per champion, but hopefully this gives you a flavour. If we turn to the models themselves, you can see that they are all pre-built with scenic bases, allowing you to inject them into games straight away, but potentially creating painting challenges on certain sculpts with details that are hard to reach with no possibility of sub-assembly. That said, the cartoonish style and scale of the miniatures does compensate for this a little. I hinted in my review of Super Fantasy Brawl that not all of the character designs and sculpts are entirely to my taste, but must admit this box is one I've been looking forward to since its announcement, and the miniatures did not disappoint. I love the dynamic Kung Fu kitty of Jin Shen with crisp details that seem to be an improvement on the already excellent first wave releases. Isabella instantly became one of my favourite characters in the range. Someone clearly put a lot of thought into how to convey power and poise through her cards and sculpt, whilst representing a wheelchair user in a fighting game, and I hope the result inspires other game designers. Someone out there with more skill at object source lighting than me is going to go to town on that glowing crystal ball she is holding, and I can't wait to see it. Alchemy towers over several models from the range and presents many opportunities for interesting colour schemes, beautiful use of volumes, and elements that would benefit from glow effects. It's a painting challenge to be sure, but I'm certain the quality of this model will attract a great many talented miniature painters to put their own spin on a character that could genuinely be painted a dozen different ways and look amazing. All in all, Mental Might is a worthwhile investment to add further options to your Super Fantasy Brawl games if you feel the characters within will complement your personal style of play. The models are gorgeous, and Mythic Games has managed to continue making each brawler feel unique. However, with 3 new such boxes released as part of Wave 2, it is worth considering which characters you will get the most use out of and spending wisely, as it is only possible to use 3 models per side in a standard game. Being the miniature addict I am, I of course bought all 3, but there is the definite risk that some of these models will get used more than others in my coming brawls. I hope this unboxing has been useful whether you are considering buying this box specifically or just want to understand what a typical expansion for Super Fantasy Brawl provides. Until our next video, be sure to work hard, play better, and take care out there.